You know the feeling. You ask an AI a question, and it gives you an answer that is so confident and just spectacularly wrong. It's maybe the biggest hurdle for AI right now. So how do we fix that? How do we build an AI we can actually trust? Well, it turns out the answer might be in teaching AI not just to read, but to connect the dots. And we're going to dive into exactly how that works.
This quote from one of the developers really just says it all, doesn't it? It perfectly captures that frustration when a chatbot spits out a totally fabricated answer with all the authority in the world. You know, this whole problem, we call it hallucination, it's one of the biggest roadblocks for AI today. And it's the exact problem that a really cool technology called GraphRAG is designed to solve.
So let's really break this trust problem down. The standard way we try to make chatbots more reliable is with a technique called retrieval augmented generation, or RAG for short. The idea is pretty simple. You give the AI a private library of documents to check before it answers, to ground its response in actual facts. But it turns out this method has a massive blind spot.
And this is exactly where you see that blind spot. If you ask a simple, searchable question like, hey, find me a low-sugar ice cream recipe, standard RAG is fantastic. It'll go find the right document, pull out the info, done. But what happens when you ask something complex? Something that requires putting pieces together from hundreds of different documents, like, show me all the contracts that are set to expire this month. Well, that's where the whole system just starts to fall apart. So why does it fall apart? Well, because the technology underneath, called vector search, it's designed to find chunks of text that are similar in meaning, not necessarily related in context. It might find 20 different little snippets from contracts that mention an expiration date, but it has no earthly idea how they all connect to each other. It's completely missing the bigger picture. So it turns out the whole missing piece here is context. To answer those really tough questions, the AI doesn't just need isolated facts. It needs to understand the relationships between those facts. And to do that, you need a totally different way of organizing your information. And this new way is called a knowledge graph. Honestly, the best way to think about it is like a giant mind map for all of your data. Instead of just a big pile of disconnected documents, a knowledge graph actually maps out the important things: the people, the places, the concepts, and, this is the crucial part, the relationships that connect them all. For example, Nia could be one dot or node. The AI alliance could be another node. The knowledge graph creates this explicit link. We call it an edge, right between them that says, is a member of. It's that simple, really. And it's so much closer to how our own brains work. We connect concepts to build a bigger understanding of the world. And that right there is the breakthrough. By storing relationships like this, an AI can finally go beyond just matching similar-sounding words and start to actually grasp the meaning and the context buried in the data. It's kind of like the difference between having a dictionary and having an encyclopedia. So, what happens when you combine the raw search power of standard RAG with the deep contextual understanding of a knowledge graph? Well, you get this incredibly powerful new technique called GraphRAG. And the definition is just beautifully simple. We're still doing retrieval augmented generation, but now that whole retrieval process is supercharged. Instead of just searching a list of documents, the AI can actually navigate this rich, interconnected map of knowledge. The whole process works in this really elegant three-step flow. First, it does a quick search to find a few good starting points in the data. Second, and this is the magic part, it starts to traverse the knowledge graph from those points, exploring all the connections to pull in all this rich, related context. And finally, it just re-ranks everything it found to make sure the most relevant stuff is at the top. Now, it's really important to get this. GraphRAG doesn't replace the systems you already have. It enhances them. You're basically adding this powerful new layer of context right on top, creating a hybrid system that gets you the best of both worlds: the lightning speed of vector search and the deep understanding of a knowledge graph. Okay, so this all sounds pretty cool in theory, right? But what are the real tangible benefits of doing this? Well, the research points to 3 huge wins. First up, how about just a massive jump in quality? We're talking a 3-fold improvement here. Yep. Research from data.world found that when they used a knowledge graph alongside vector search, they got a 3 times higher average response quality. That means more accurate, more complete answers, and way, way fewer of those confident, loud, and wrong moments we started with.
The second win is for the people who actually have to build these systems. It's just easier to work with. A graph, it's explicit, it's human readable, you can look at it and it makes sense like a map. A vector embedding, on the other hand, is just a long, abstract string of numbers. That difference makes developing, debugging, and actually trusting the system so much more intuitive.
And the third win, and this might be the most critical one of all, is explainability. Because you can literally trace the path the AI took through the graph to get its answer. You can audit the result. You know the exact source for every single piece of information. When you're trying to build trustworthy, governable AI, that is not a nice to have. It is absolutely essential.
And look, this isn't just some academic theory stuck in a research paper. This technology is already being rolled out by some of the biggest names in tech to solve very real problems right now. Take Microsoft, for instance. They're using GraphRAG for what they call query-focused summarization, basically allowing them to create these incredibly rich, contextual summaries from really complex documents. And then you have LinkedIn, which has implemented knowledge graphs to completely power their customer support systems.
So what did that actually do for LinkedIn? Well, it led to this number. That's right. By putting their knowledge graph system into production, LinkedIn was able to cut the median time it took to resolve a customer issue by almost 30%. That is a massive, massive gain in efficiency. And it's driven entirely by giving their systems better context to find the right answers faster. You know, Microsoft's own research team really puts it perfectly. They say the goal of GraphRAG is to enable a rich understanding of data. It's all about making that leap from simply finding text to truly comprehending the whole network of knowledge that it represents.
Which kind of leaves us with this one big final thought. As our AI systems get more and more powerful, the challenge of making sure they're reliable, trustworthy, and frankly honest, it just grows right along with them. GraphR seems to suggest that the key might not just be more data or bigger models, but a deeper, more structured understanding of the connections within that data. And maybe, in the end, context is the only thing that will keep our AI honest.